anytime anybody talks about quote-unquote criminal justice reform, they're always using all three of these great lies. One, the first great lie is, of course, what we also call the greatest hoax of our generation, that black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism all the time, everywhere. That explains everything. That's why there's so many black people in prison all the time, because of relentless white racism. The second great lie is how easy it is to go to prison for nothing, for nonviolent acts. Let's leave the third great lie until the end.
A Detroit man accused of a violent crime spree, including a carjacking in Dearborn, laughs off the charges in court. Thanks for being with us for the news at 6. An already extensive rap sheet got longer today as Christopher Pinkard was charged with multiple felonies in Dearborn.
We've got video police say shows one of Pinkard's alleged crimes, a carjacking in which the victim was pistol whipped.
And police say he made a mistake that led right to him. Sean Lay is live with more on Pinkard's past and his bizarre behavior in court. Sean, good evening.
Good evening to you. Let's start with his alleged violent behavior right here in this parking lot in the heart of Dearborn. Two brothers telling me this came out of the blue early on a Sunday morning. They say this guy came up dressed as a worker, hard hat, vest, said he was here to do some work on lines. Then he pulled out a gun and attacked them. In court today, police calling Christopher Pinkard a threat to society. Pinkard laughing as he's charged with multiple felonies today. The 33-year-old violated his ankle monitoring system. He was out of prison as a convicted sex offender of a minor. Starting Saturday, police say he began a violent crime spree.
Mr. Pinkard is a suspect in a strangulation where shots were fired the day before this incident in the city of Dearborn and also the day after the city of Detroit on an additional carjacking.
The carjacking was Sunday morning and caught on security camera. Police believe that's Pinkard, dressed in a worker vest and hard hat, hitting a man with a gun, stealing his car on Warren Avenue in Dearborn. Moments before, he walked right past Khalil McCamish and said hi to him.
The officers came back asking, "You guys see a man wearing a DTE energy shirt?" I'm like, "Yeah, he just passed by." And I'm like, "He said hi." He's like, "Well, you just robbed your neighbors at gunpoint."
The carjacking victims are two brothers stunned that they would be carjacked in the heart of Dearborn on a Sunday morning. How did police catch Pinkard so quickly? He left his identification in a running car right around the corner.
Left it running, came down, walked around the building, robbed their car, took off, and left this car on the side of the building.
How bizarre is that?
Officers knew who he was by finding his ID in the car.
And the story does not end there. Take a look at this picture one of the victims sent to me today. That's the victim's car smashed, totaled into a house. The two brothers here, the two victims, chased the suspect here into Detroit where he crashed into a house. He ran away, but again, the second time, Devin Kimberly, he left more evidence at the scene, so police were able to kind of follow his trail and then pick him up. They easily identified him. Back to you.
Nothing funny about those charges. Sean, I'm wondering how the victims are doing.
You know what? They're stunned by all this, as I said, shaken up, saying this is Dearborn. They just moved into an apartment near here not long ago. They said they're not going to stick around. This kind of thing has really shaken them up.
So this young fella, convicted of sexual offenses, has a rap sheet a mile long. We can't even put him in prison. And you're trying to tell me that we're letting the violent people go and we're imprisoning the pot smokers and the other nonviolent people, all for no reason whatsoever. Good Lord, what a fairy tale. And the third great lie of criminal justice reform is we have to stop prosecuting, as the prosecutor in Boston said the other day, the person who will be the next district attorney of the Boston region said, she said we're going to stop prosecuting shoplifting, resisting arrest, and drug dealing, and lots of other, what she called minor crimes. She said we're going to stop doing that because we need to put the money we would spend on that from jail and prosecutor time. We need to do that so we can catch the big criminals who are going around killing everybody in Boston, because Boston has one of the worst rates in the country, not just for murder, but for catching the killer. Boy, how easily these, well, it is what it is. How easily these lies fall off the tongues of people who are trying to convince us that criminal justice reform is so important to us. I mean, do you remember when the lotteries first started coming out? Why did we need lotteries? Because we're going to take all the money, take $1 million that the state made in a lottery, and we're going to use it for schools or old people or young people or kitties, puppies, turtles, or goldfish, one of those things. And that way all will be good. Here's a new word for you guys. It's called fungible. Money is fungible. If I take the $1 million in school from the lottery and give it to school, the state can come along and just take $1 million out on the backside and do whatever the hell they felt like doing with it in the first place. Like more midnight basketball. Like hiring PR people to convince us that black crime and violence is not wildly out of proportion and white people do it too. It's not really happening. And that white people deserve it. That's criminal justice reform. It's getting a lot of momentum in unlikely places. Never gets any momentum on the campaign trail, but when the elections are over, the Republicans go back to Washington or their state capitals or their city council, and they discover the wisdom of this to the extent that they get removed from where the problem is actually happening. And in that way, we don't make any black kids angry.